Thank you for attending the product briefing of Smart Editor today. We will introduce the product features of Smart Editor, the new configuration software for MonoTouch, which will be released in October 2024. Please note that this document contains comparative information that includes the actual names of competitors. Therefore, please be careful when handling this document as some of slides are confidential. Here is the table of contents for today. We will go through the product concept, features and performance, specifications and operating environment, and finally the manual. Please let us explain the product concept of Smart Editor first. Smart Editor was developed based on the product concept of the user interface has been completely redesigned to enable stress-free, intuitive screen creation. With the catchphrase, screen creation has evolved from learned to intuitive with our smart configuration software. Until now, as the functions and performance of configuration software have expanded, the settings have become more complex, and creating screens has required a certain level of expertise, such as familiarity, experience and understanding of the manual. Smart Editor minimizes the need for such expertise, and by providing intuitive operation, it provides a stress-free editing environment. We will explain the details of the three key features: improved visibility, centralized configuration, and reduced man-hours. To improve visibility, which is the first feature, we first improve the user interface. The conventional ribbon menu has been replaced with simple and unified minimalist design icons for intuitive operation. In addition, the icon name is displayed when the mouse is hovered over the icon, and the corresponding detailed part can be selected by long pressing the icon. These new user interfaces provide intuitive operation without hesitation. Next, we will introduce the visualized hardware configuration. In addition to displaying the configuration of connected devices in hierarchical tree form in the project view, you can also display it graphically in the hardware settings, so the device configuration is clear at a glance and intuitive operation is possible. In addition, the main functions related to the HMI unit are concentrated at the top of the screen, so users do not get lost. As the second feature, centralized configuration, we will now explain the project view, which provides a clear overview of the entire file structure. All settings for the entire file have been centralized in the project view on the left side of the editing screen. The settings for the entire file, including screens in use, alarm and logging block settings, and a local port IP address, are centralized in the project view, making it possible to intuitively access the desired settings. In addition, each configuration item is divided into 3 tabs, and each configuration item is displayed in a tree structure to enhance visibility. From here, we will introduce functions on the project view that can be used to reduce man-hours spent on screen editing. The first is the display of functions in use. You can see at a glance what functions are being used and on which screens. For example, as shown in the examples of open macro and alarm on the right, checks and plus marks indicate the status of use. This saves time when you need to know what functions are in use. From here, as a specific example of how to use the software, we will introduce an example of editing screen data created by someone else, which is a fairly common case. For example, how can we change the message displayed on an alarm? If you click on the Alarm on the Screen tab in the project view, you can see which alarm block is being used. By double-clicking on the relevant alarm block number and entering the detailed settings, you can easily get to the message editing you are looking for. Next, we will introduce the improved macro settings. In the Smart Editor macro settings, the settings for global macros, which operate on all screens, and screen macros, which operate depending on the individual screen, have been integrated. The tabs have been separated according to the areas where macros are valid, so that you can see at a glance that the left side is the global macro tab and the right side is the screen macro tab. We believe that you often need to identify macros when debugging, and this will help you to save time. From here, we will introduce a specific example of how to use macro settings, in which we will change the screensaver switching time for screen data created by someone else. As the screensaver is enabled on all screens, open the System Settings tab, where you can find settings that are not screen-specific. Next, because the screen will automatically switch if you don't touch it for 5 minutes, we can guess that probably some macro setting was related, so let's open it and check the Global tab, which is enabled for the entire screen. Selecting the Event Timer macro, which is set to run periodically, the contents related to the screensaver are displayed on the preview. By double-clicking on the Event Timer macro and entering the macro block in question, you can easily change the screensaver switching time. Next, we will introduce the properties, which is one of the characteristic features of Smart Editor. The settings for a part are integrated into the properties and design properties, so there is no need to be confused about what is set where. Clicking on a part displays the properties in a red frame, and by switching tabs and scrolling, you can check and change all settings. Each setting item can be shown or hidden by pressing plus or minus icons. Unneeded items can be closed to make effective use of display space. The settings related to the design of the parts are all gathered together in the design properties in the yellow frame, and the properties that have been separated by purpose make them even easier to use. Now, let us introduce some useful tools related to properties. Smart Editor supports batch settings that allow you to select and edit multiple items at the same time, and in addition to this, any setting that does not match within the selected items will be displayed in red on the properties. This makes it easy to see the differences at a glance, and greatly reduces the time needed to check settings. In addition, the color settings for parts can now be directly specified by a 6-digit color number. When you want to set the same color, you may have been confused about which color you had selected in the palette, but by supporting direct specification, you can now match colors without making mistakes. A pull-down menu is used to select the property settings, but we have also taken into account the need for fine-grained operability, and the settings can also be changed by double-clicking. This makes it possible to change the settings in a short time with minimal mouse movement. From here, we will introduce the third feature, the reduced man-hours, in terms of the line of flow during the screen editing. In general, screen editing is done in the order of 1, 2, and 3. First, set up the entire file using the system settings, etc., and then move on to placing the parts and setting the details of the parts using the properties. In Smart Editor, the layout was designed so that the line of mouse movement and the line of sight during editing are standardized from left to right. This standardized line of flow during editing improves work efficiency. Now, let's take a look at an example of the editing process when you change the screen background and add a switch. First of all, double-click the screen number from the project view to display the desired screen to edit. Next, to change the background color, double-click Screen Settings in the project view. The Screen Settings dialog will appear. Change the background color to your preference. Next, select a switch from the part icons and place it on the screen. After placing the switch, select it to display its properties and set its function. You can then change the design using the design properties at the bottom. Smart Editor has been developed with consideration for the editing efficiency, so that there is no waste in these series of actions. Next, we will show you how to place and edit new parts to save man-hours. First, to place a part, press and hold the toolbar to display the part selection window. The selection window will appear for the 6 functions shown here, and the marker at the bottom right of the icon is the sign. The related parts and entrances to the settings are grouped together, so you will not get lost. In addition, the number of man-hours required for placement is also taken into account. Once a part is placed, the icon on the toolbar changes to the selected part. It's convenient when placing the same items in a row. The advantage of the long press selection window is that it appears only when you press and hold down the icon, allowing you to work while checking the entire screen without occupying your workspace. Next, let's look at how to edit parts. The Smart Editor makes it easy to change the design of parts after they have been placed. The default design is a simple minimalist design, and after placement, the design can be switched from a shape, catalog, or image file. When entering text, it is easy to add or delete characters regardless of the length or number of lines. Also, the coordinates have been unified with the other parts and are now based on the top left, making them easier to understand. The editing method now became simpler and more intuitive, allowing you to edit without hesitation. Now let's compare VSFT version 6 and Smart Editor. In Smart Editor, the ribbon menu has been replaced by properties and toolbars with icons, making it easier to find functions and settings and facilitating smooth editing. To give a concrete example, when activating the emulator, VSFT version 6 required 3 clicks of Transfer, Emulator, and Start, while Smart Editor allows you to click the Emulator icon directly, meaning you can start it up with just one click. Let us give you another example. When checking if the PDF Viewer function is being used, VSFT version 6 requires 3 clicks of System Settings, Other, and PDF Viewer Settings, while Smart Editor requires only 2 clicks of System Settings and PDF Viewer Settings. For those who repeat these actions on a daily basis, the difference in the number of clicks is significant and contributes greatly to reducing overall work efficiency. Next, we will introduce the compatibility with VSFT. With Smart Editor, you can convert the screen data of legacy models created with VSFT directly to the V10 series for editing. Also, as with VSFT version 6, screen data for V8 and later models can be opened, edited, and transferred as is. Screen data assets of previous models can be utilized to reduce the man-hours required for screen data replacement. Next, we will introduce the reduction of waiting time during startup and maintenance. In a comparison of actual measurements of the same screen created using configuration software from major HMI manufacturers, Smart Editor achieved the industry's #1 performance in terms of startup and transfer. When commissioning or maintaining equipment, you have to repeat the process of screen data transfer and starting up the configuration software many times. By minimizing the waiting time for startup and transfer, you can maximize the effective working time on site. From here, we will explain the license for Smart Editor. There are 3 types of Smart Editor licenses: single, multiple, and site licenses. Please choose the one that best suits the number of computers on which you wish to install Smart Editor. The price of multiple licenses varies depending on the number of licenses, so please contact us for more information. Version upgrades are available free of charge from our website as in the past, but we also sell version upgrade DVDs for those who want to upgrade in environments without internet access. When installing Smart Editor on a PC for the first time, a dialog box will appear during the installation process asking you to enter a password. Installation will proceed by entering the password written in the license agreement packaged in the purchase license. Please note that you cannot upgrade from VSFT. Purchasing a license is required. The price of a site license is set at the same price as a multiple license of 10 licenses, and a license is issued for each of the customer's business locations. At licensed offices, you can install it on an unlimited number of computers. You can choose between multiple licenses and site licenses depending on the number of installations you need. The following is an overview of what is included when you purchase a license. Each license includes an installation DVD, license agreement, and environment instruction manual. For site license, a dedicated leaflet for registration will be included in addition to these. The license agreement includes the type of license, serial number, and password. Please keep it in a safe place so that you do not lose it. Each license will contain only one password. Next, we will explain how to install a site license. As explained earlier, when you order a site license, a leaflet for registration of the site license is included in the DVD package. And the procedure is completed by registering your company name, branch name, and serial number on the registration form from the URL provided. Next, let us explain the specifications and operating environment. Smart Editor can edit V8 or later V-Series, UG40 or later POD, X1, TS, S8, and TELUS. Regarding supported operating systems, Windows 8.1 and earlier are no longer supported by Microsoft, so they are not compatible with Smart Editor. Only Windows 10 and 11 are supported. Finally, let us explain the manuals for Smart Editor. We are currently preparing the manuals shown here. The completion date is scheduled for the end of October 2024 for English, and as for the other languages, the schedule will be determined later. This ends the product presentation of the new software Smart Editor. Thank you for your attention.